The local agency formation commission to order August 5th, 2019 at 9:03. Can we conduct roll call, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Orth?
Here.
Commissioner McCowan?
Here.
Commissioner Ward?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Huff?
Here.
Commissioner Ignacio?
Here.
Commissioner Bazzani?
Here.
And Commissioner Rosenberg?
I'm here too.
I'm sorry, Chair Brown.
That's okay.
Please bear with me as I learn.
Okay, this is a time for public expression. Anyone that would like to come forward to address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction, which is not on the agenda, is time to do it, 3-minute limit. So, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing no one, we move to other business. There isn't any listed on our agenda, so we're going to move forward to the consent calendar. And the consent calendar has 4 items. For A, approval of the June 3rd, 2019 regular meeting minutes. For B, ratification of the June 2019 claims and financial reports. And for C, approval of the July 2019 claims and financial reports. I would like to go to our treasurer, Mr. Ward, to see if he has comment.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the July 2019 claims. Just a couple comments and then one question to our EO.
Okay.
First of all, the Wager application in the June, it was $5,700 and it jumped up to $6,100.
Yes, there was, when she first submitted the application, it was short $350, so I had requested that she add that, send in additional deposit, and so that was the second.
Okay, could you double check then later about the balance due? Because you did some work for her in July, I think, $2,400. Didn't seem like it added up correctly.
Okay, I'll have to look into that then.
Okay, and then on the July, you expensed the GIS invoice and the video taping in July. I just wanted to note that that's an accounts payable for June, because those were June expenses, but they were coming off our July budget, or our New Year budget.
Okay.
And then for July, I did not receive those 2 invoices in my packet as well for my file. Because I'm trying to keep track of all the expenses so that when we do the financials, I have all the invoicing.
You didn't receive copies of the June bill?
The June billing from GIS and the video.
Okay, I'll make that correction.
That's all I had, thank you.
Supervisor Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I didn't hear a specific request for a change, just clarifications and so forth.
Yes.
So with that, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
And no corrections to the minutes, Commissioner?
I wanted to go on with the July
Financials?
financials. I had a question about the $5,700, the internet and website cost. When I went and broke down your bill, I noticed a lot of that was for telecommunications, phone circuits for the year. How is that not an office expense?
We've been including it under the internet just because it comes as a bundled package through Pacific Internet. But if
Okay.
you feel that should be broken out, we can look at that differently.
And under your office expenses, you haven't had telecommunications or phones on that?
Yeah, we haven't done that in the last couple of years,
Okay.
but we could look at that.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. And we do have a motion on the floor, but I would like to ask one question about Pacific Internet. I think it's important, since we have it right here, I don't know if you're going to include it in your report, but I think you need to report just exactly what's going on with them and the change in server. And I know I was down again, and what happened to you?
Sure, thank you. We did, there were 2 things I wanted to mention. We did have 2 outages during the month of July that totaled up to about 6, I think it was June and July, they were just a couple weeks apart, that totaled up to about 6 days lost of internet email service. It didn't affect the phones, but we had no email service, and unfortunately it occurred during a time when we were expecting comments back on the application, so it did require some additional outreach to the agencies because emails were lost during that 6 days. The other thing was that during the review of the annual bill, the internet, the Fusion service for the phone went up about $150 per year. And I also discovered that we had 2 unnecessary email accounts that we're getting charged $100 a year for, so we eliminated those. So the offset is about the same, but just as a FYI for next year, it will be going up a couple $100. But Commissioner Brown was referring to the internet outage, I believe, which was about 6 days.
It was a pain.
Yes, it not only was a pain, but you stop to think of all the time. I mean, I received 3,800 for the last year back.
Well, I got 6,000 back.
And I thought everything was cleared up, and here came another whole string of them. And so I thought it was important, especially because there was a comment period that had deadlines, and there was no access. So Uma and I did talk about it, and she did do the outreach because I felt that was important. So I appreciate hearing what's going on, and I don't know if we want to look into this further or as we go down the road, because when you get a big increase, there should be a pre-notice that your phone service or whatever it might be is going to be increased $150. That's huge. Commissioner Ignacio?
So as of the result of the outage, did we get a credit back? Was there a credit issued for
No,
service lost?
There was not, and we haven't done the outreach to them in regards to that.
Looking at the costs, it might be worth the time to do that and look for that in the future. The second thing is, in the case where there is a timing issue, it's about this commission's ability to receive email, right? Or communications in this case. What are the legal bindings if someone's communication doesn't make it to us? Is there a consequence? I mean, it's no fault or intent of the commission to not receive it. It'd be no different than if it was delayed in, postal mail, right? So if the communications aren't received, is that a problem for us?
I think in regards to the application, that it would be a problem for us, which is why we did the additional outreach to all the agencies.
Great.
Yeah.
I think we need to say something to the effect that it was just not us that was affected, it was a great many other people. And I personally got affected as well. So I think it was pretty much everyone who had Pacific.net service. First we lost internet, and then we got everything back, which took forever to clean up. And it was a major mess.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think Commissioner Ignacio is suggesting we ask for a refund, which I would certainly support. And secondly, we might direct staff to look at other options. There may be more cost-effective, more effective service out there, more reliable. I don't know.
Well, why don't we, because we're getting off the agenda, and
Good idea.
and we need to stay on the agenda, so that is an item I believe that we'd like to discuss coming up on the next agenda.
Okay.
Would that work? Yeah.
Certainly, I do think we could just give that informal direction, or staff has heard the discussion, but it's your call, Madam Chair.
Well, I think it should come up as an item, and all of us think about it. Changing internet, web services is also quite complicated, I would think. So I think we need to have further discussion, and maybe we can have a report back when you inquire about a credit because of lost business, legal timelines that needed to be met. I think it's important that the owner hear it, not necessarily staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right. So we are going to move forward, and we are going to,
We have a motion on the
oh,
table.
psst. Thank you, sir. All righty, we have a motion by Commissioner McCowan, a second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
and Chair Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ward. Now we are going to our public hearing item. This is, the commission will consider a municipal service review and sphere of influence update as required by LAFCO law. This is the final report, includes written determinations on the level and scope of services provided by the Brooktrails Township Community Service District. I'm going to open the public hearing, and I want to ask the clerk if all proper notice had been established and also all correspondence distributed and telephone calls noted.
Yes.
Thank you. I will go through the procedure. We'll have a staff presentation, and following that will be questions from the commission. Then we will go to public comment, and commissioners, you can ask questions of the speaker, and staff then can comment as well. And then the matter will be back to the commission, and staff can make final comment. The public hearing will then continue until all is covered. And then the public hearing will be closed, and that is the time we can entertain a motion. So before going further, I think Commissioner Orth, do you have a comment about conflict of interest, or you're a director on the Brooktrails Township Community Service District. Have we checked this out with legal counsel?
We did check it out when we did the City of Willits. I checked with our legal counsel, and because the commissioners are speaking on behalf of the county, and considering for the betterment of the county as a whole and not just their district, it is not a conflict of interest.
I thought that was important to state for the record. Thank you. All righty. Would you like to begin with your presentation?
Thank you. I want to extend a thank you to General Manager Tamara Alanis for all her help in getting this report together, and also to Larkin Filer, our analyst, who wrote the report. So this is a public hearing. The workshop for the item was held on June 3rd, where we received comments from the commissioners and the general manager regarding the draft MSR sphere update. The comments and staff's responses to those comments have been itemized with a list of the responses to each of the commissioners' comments and directions. That starts on page 23 of your agenda packet. The Brooktrails Township CSD was formed in 1975 and is a successor agency to the Brooktrails Resort Improvement District, which was formed in 1962. I won't go through the itemized list of comments and responses. If there are questions, I will welcome those. I will go to towards the end of the staff report to talk about the sphere of influence. We are recommending that the sphere be reaffirmed and establishing 3 service-specific spheres. I'm going to refer to the map on page 37 of your agenda packet. The 3 service-specific spheres would be all services for the Brooktrails Township subdivision, water and fire service-specific spheres for the Spring Creek subdivision, and a fire service specific sphere for the Sylvandale subdivision. We're also recommending, based on correspondence and working with the district, 4 sphere or areas of interest. And as a reminder, an area of interest is the geographic area that's located outside of the sphere that is identified for increased coordination with area agencies. And so those areas are, again, noted on the map on page 37, and those include the Lower Sherwood Road, the Upper Sherwood Road, the Gates Subdivision, and the Willits Airport. So the increased affected agencies would primarily be the county and the district and the city of Willits. Both the municipal service review and the sphere of influence are categorically exempt from CEQA. The public notices are included in the agenda packet and are located on page 152. There is a notice of exemption on page 153 of your agenda packet. So staff is recommending the coterminous sphere with the 3 service-specific spheres and also the identification of the 4 areas of interest. And I want to thank Lee Farr at the county for helping us to map those. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have just a couple minor corrections that we can discuss. The first is on page 39, which is where we list the governing body. And part of, let's see, the last paragraph down, it says board members receive compensation at the rate of $100 per meeting, regular or special meetings in accordance with Community Service District Law, section so-and-so, with a maximum of 6 paid meetings per month. I would like to add a sentence after that saying, by policy, Brooktrails limits compensation to 24 meetings per annum. Because the way it's stated, it looks like we allow special meetings and such to be charged, and that is not so. We actually have a calendar that we approve for 24 meetings per year. Any extra meetings we don't compensate for. There's a response? Discussion?
Commissioner McCowan?
Well, I wonder if it could just say then, put a comma and with not to exceed 24 paid meetings per year.
By district policy. It's a
Sure.
policy decision, so
Sure.
I would accept that as good verbiage.
Thank you.
So clerk, you have that language down?
We do.
Okay, and let's see, the next one is on page 42. At the bottom, just above the table, account clerk secretary position has remained vacant for several years, and just a statement was filled in July of 2019. That is now a filled position.
So it was filled.
Yes, it was. Like I say, these are all just minor little changes. And the final one, let's see, is on page 69, sort of just below the middle of the page. The district has partnered with the Brooktrails Property Owners Association, BPO8, to provide special events. That sentence should be removed, and it should just state the district works with the Willits Kids Club to provide. Basically, the Brooktrails Property Owners Association no longer exists.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the total of my changes.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to state, be careful what you wish for. Thank you for those financial statements, the 50 pages.
Yes, they were.
You set the bar way high.
But we have them.
But we have them.
Mr. McCowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wondered to that end if we could include the audit as a link rather than, automatically put the whole thing on, because someone goes to download the report. They may not want the full audit, but if we have it as a link, it's available if they do. Is that?
That's totally agreeable. It's why I have my computer here today.
And then I had one question for clarification on page 51 of 214. After the bullets at the top, then the second sentence of the next paragraph. The district is currently in the process of accumulating capital need and other reserves each year. So I'm not sure what capital need meant.
I will have to seek clarification on that unless General Manager Alanis has a quick response to that.
Thank you.
So that appears to be all from the commission. Now we'll have public comment. Tamara, would you like to come forward, state your name for the record, and you might want to comment on that one question?
Thank you, Chair Brown. Good morning, Commissioners. Tamara Alanis, General Manager, Brooktrails Township Community Services District. I'd be happy to comment on the most recent question, and I have just a couple other things. First, I'd like to thank Uma and Larkin for all their work and patience to be able to get through this. It's a big deal every time you guys go through it, and so thank you for getting this hearing set in a timely fashion. I'm glad we're able to get through it today. I do have just a few things that I wanted to point out. Commissioner Orth, who, as you also stated, sits on my board of directors, pointed out a couple things, and I just have a couple other small things. And primarily, I would say in regard to the items that were brought up by Commissioner Orth, as well as the items that I'll just briefly discuss today, these are really just small clerical things, and in fact, things that maybe that have just slightly changed since we started working on this project. So with regard to Commissioner McCowan's statement on the page 2-14, I dare say that's probably just a typographical error because of the terminology of capital needs being used rather frequently. I think that we would just strike the word need, and it would say capital and other reserves. I'd also like to request a small change in the figure 2-3, which identifies different goals that, excuse me, that the district has by department. And primarily it's with regard to the Parks and Recreation Department project goals. As you may have seen, we have been applying and have now submitted applications for the Proposition 68 grant for parks from the state. We were only able to submit 2 applications. We were unable to successfully compile an application for the golf course bridge project. So I would just ask that that line be stricken from the table in the final report.
You have a page number on that again?
54 of 214.
Thank you.
You said 2-3, sorry.
Yes, under figure 2-3.
And it would be, yeah, it would be on 54.
Thank you, Chair Brown. And then I just would comment finally on the Brooktrails Property Owners Association. When we did start putting this report together, the Property Owners Association was really kind of in a state of flux, and we weren't really sure what was going to go on. We have at the township had a long historical relationship with the Property Owners Association and coordinated on many, many things, community events, et cetera. In the last few years, it does seem that the Property Owners Association is nearly defunct. I don't want to say that they're completely. I know that there are still some players that are trying to potentially maybe revigorate, revise, reinvent what the Property Owners Association represents and what their duties are. But I would just say in just an observational point, I think a lot of it has to do with the changing demographics of our area. You know, whereas primarily the resort improvement district as it was developed was there for part-time living. We have a full-time population now. We have a family population. And I think that there are a lot of renters that may also have changed the dynamic between property ownership, population, and rental property ownership relationships. So I have no objection to striking that, but I just wanted to provide a little bit more context in our discussion regarding why that is what it is and kind of where it is in the timeline. Other than that, I appreciate the incorporation of the items that come from the audit that go into the charts and tables that are included in your packet and in the final proposed municipal service review. If there are any questions that come in the finality that need clarification, I think that they would be small and potentially we could handle those on a staff level. Also, finally, I think most of you have my contact information. I haven't met these two gentlemen before, but certainly if you have any questions for me that your director can't assist you with, I'd be happy to entertain those today or in the future.
Okay, can you designate what pages for the association? I know Mr. Orth did at one point, but I'm not sure if that's the only place it appears.
So I don't have it, oh, okay, 69 of 214, entitled page 3-4 in the MSR section. So it would be the second to last paragraph in the upper section. The first sentence.
Do you have questions, Uma?
No, I think that we've determined to strike that sentence, so I think that provides the clarity.
A comment?
Oh, yes, sir.
We could just drop Brooktrails Property Owners Association and put private public groups. And that way it leaves it open for future.
Well, that may be succinct enough because we actually do have kind of an investigatory thing underway with the golf course contractor to potentially do movies in the park. So the truing of the actual events themselves may remain.
Okay, I think that was a good suggestion. I think we can all agree to that. And you were able to capture that, Uma?
Yes, thank you.
All righty. And I would just like to go back to page 54 of 214 and that figure 2-3, and it is for the Prop 68, and put applied. And it should be changed to 2 projects. And then the golf course bridge project be struck.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that is now clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll ask staff to make concluding remarks.
I've captured the edits and I have no further comments.
Anything else, commissioners?
A very well done MSR, SOI.
Yes. Thought so too.
Very thorough.
Very thorough. Thank you.
They're getting thicker and thicker, though.
I would like to thank staff too, because I know we went through a general manager change which delayed, and so it's good to get it done. I'm sure you feel the same way, but it's a quality product. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can all agree to that. So, we're going to close the public hearing. The matter is now before the commission, and there are recommended actions that contained on our agenda.
I'll move staff recommendation as outlined on page 23 of 214.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Ward, a second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Do we have any other comment?
This is for the adoption as amended?
Correct.
As amended, correct.
Thank you.
Got that?
Yeah, got it.
And thank you for making that correction. Your chair is falling down on her job today. All righty, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yep.
Commissioner Huff?
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio?
Yes.
And Chair Brown?
Yes. All righty, thank you so much. And thank you, Tamara, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chair Brown. Thank you, Commission.
Hey,
Thank you.
moving forward, number 6 on our agenda is workshop items. We have none today. So now we're moving on to agenda item 7, and this is matters for discussion and possible action. We have 7A, Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program Grant Proposal. Uma, would you like to take us through that, please?
Thank you. I want to start by saying that Megan McClure with the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District is here, and I want to thank her for coming today. We had some last-minute coordination, and I appreciate her being able to be here today. So I am new to this program, so I want to apologize ahead of time if I don't have a ton of detail on it. But the Sustainable Ag Lands Conservation Program protects at-risk agricultural lands from sprawl development and to promote orderly growth around jurisdictions, and to ensure that open space remains available, and also to support a healthy agricultural economy. So there are some similarities between the SALC program and LAFCO's directives for preserving open space and agricultural lands, as well as orderly growth and development. So the primary mission of the Mendocino County Sustainable Ag Lands Committee is to conserve the agricultural and natural resource lands throughout Mendocino County while encouraging responsible and balanced development. There are a number of committee members involved. There's the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District, the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors, the Mendocino County Department of Agriculture, the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, Mendocino County Farm Bureau, and the University of California Cooperative Extension, and a number of land trusts, the Mendocino Land Trust, the Inland Mendocino Land Trust, and the Anderson Valley Land Trust. There is a flyer of the frequently asked questions sheet is included in your agenda packet that can provide some more detail on that. In November of 2015, the County Department of Agriculture received a grant to develop a sustainable ag land strategy report that they did, and which I believe was completed and adopted in 2017. Megan did provide a presentation on that to our commission, I believe it was last year. So since then, there is a grant opportunity that has come up, and a pre-proposal was submitted by the SALC, the Sustainable Ag Lands Committee. The intent of that proposal is to facilitate the implementation of the strategies that are identified in that Sustainable Ag Lands strategy document. Project objectives include development of an agricultural component for the Mendocino County Climate Action Plan, expanding the carbon farming planning program and local soil health initiative, to increase participation in Williamson Act and conservation easement programs, and to increase communication with diverse stakeholders regarding the Ag Lands strategy objectives. I did reach out to Megan a number of times over the last few months to assist. As part of the strategy report, there was identification of ag lands, particularly around the Ukiah Valley area, which is relevant to LAFCO because LAFCO needs to consider those ag lands as part of any type of annexation, annexation processing, or development, establishment of the spheres of influence. So I did reach out to Megan a few times to coordinate with her on what ag lands had been identified. And this is how this LAFCO is being now asked to consider partnering on this pre-proposal. The pre-proposal was submitted already, so the next steps will be the proposal itself. And I'm hoping that Megan would be willing to speak a little bit about that today. We're bringing this forward as an informational item, but also for consideration to be, to include LAFCO as a partner in the application. And in doing so, it would require authorizing a budget, a share of the match requirement, which would be about $4,000 to cover the match funds, which would be expended as staff time. And then there would be additional time. What was proposed was an additional $10,000 in grant monies that would reimburse for staff time for involvement. And the involvement would pretty much be as a stakeholder and participation in the process.
Questions? Seeing none, Megan, would you like to come forward under public comment? And we'll give you more than 3 minutes. Please restate your name for the record.
Megan McClure. I'm the Executive Director of the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District. So, Uma, that was an excellent summary. Okay. So I don't have a lot to add to her comment other than we're very excited about the LAFCO's state report that came out last February, and we're wanting to build upon a lot of the mission that you're already underway. And so the hope is that the match hours is work that UMA's already doing, because a lot of the work is directly aligned with what we're already proposing. So we don't expect to have additional burden on your organization, and we hope to bring in funding to compensate for UMA's participation in the organization. So the group has been meeting for the last year with no funding at all, and each organization's been providing feedback and input and to move forward on their own. So this is our first proposal for the group, and it's a 2-year grant. It should cover the cost of all the participants being engaged for the next 2 years.
Questions? Mr. McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So did I hear correctly that you think you can also access funding to cover the executive director's match time?
Well, not exactly. Match means there's other funding sources that pay to do work aligned with what the grant objectives are. So, for example, if one of the objectives are participating in a SALC meeting, as a simple example, UMA might have funding that covers her time to come and participate. We would document that as match. We also have funding, so she does that 5 times, and that meets the match requirement. From then on, it could be covered by the grant, and she could charge the grant money to be reimbursed for her time. But all of us have that match contribution. So myself and everybody involved in it, we have about $4,000 of match each in order to meet the requirements of the grant.
Well, correct.
And-
That was my understanding.
And-
So I saw a little silver lining that maybe we could even get reimbursed for that. But thank you for the
Then
clarification.
it wouldn't be match. One thing I wanted to point out is we mentioned a county climate action plan in here. Our proposal is to develop an agricultural component of the climate action plan. So we're not proposing to do a county climate action plan in this proposal, but just an agricultural component of it. So if it gets developed elsewhere, we would be able to contribute a chapter or something like that. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. And also, the county of Mendocino, in their budget this year, did put in $10,000.
That's right.
And the actual grant itself will be submitted by the Ag Commissioner's Office. because they are a designated entity that can apply on behalf of this particular committee.
That's right. Thanks for that, Commissioner Brown. Yes, so that was important that there was a cash match requirement for the grant. So $10,000 was voted by the Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much. Thanks for that clarification.
And can I just talk a little bit further?
Sure.
I think their work is important. When you look at Department of Conservation and their farmland mapping, they're going to map what they want, even though you may comment on the fact that that is actually zoned industrial. And the example, I'll use the old term of the Masonite property, was zoned agricultural historically. And Masonite, through their years, I think they first set up 1948, John, 1949?
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately that Masonite came and started their industrial business. So as land came up for sale around them, they would purchase that land and they would rezone to industrial. And during the big conversation on Ukiah Valley Area Plan, and if I'm stating something or missing something, Mr. McCowan, I hope you'll correct me, but the general plan, Ukiah Valley Area Plan, continued to recognize it as industrial. And there is agriculture going on in that particular area, but the reason that the decision makers of the time, they knew that there would be growth, and being an industrial site, it is one of the best in the county when you consider electrical needs, sewer, water. It is a place that industry can happen. And it also was accepted because we wanted to protect other agricultural corridors because it can have the domino effect that once growth starts, the rest of ag starts falling down. And so most recently, at least in my eyes, that's the same concern about the Willits bypass. And you look at when Ukiah was bypassed, Redwood Highway used to be State Street, and you go right through the middle of town. And when the bypass did occur, used to be all agriculture out at the Orchard and Perkins Street intersection. In fact, where McDonald's is today, that was a pig barn. And it was a great place with 4 stop signs. Well, the freeway came in and everything started growing and moving towards at the bypass. So it's just, everything this committee's going to do is going to be important, and appreciate the work and the volunteerism that has occurred to date. So that's my comment. Mr. Ward.
Yes, what happens if LAFCO doesn't participate in this?
We will continue with the grant proposal has gone in without LAFCO because we hadn't gotten your approval yet.
Okay.
So if you do choose to join, that changes our match requirements in the budget. And we're getting feedback tomorrow about what they thought of the proposal. We have been invited to do a full proposal, which is due in September. There will be a scope of work if LAFCO is joined, so we have to negotiate that and make sure that's something that's available in the staff's time to contribute.
Okay. How does this affect housing for the future? The objective is to promote smart growth. So we're not anti-growth in any way. We just want to make sure that prime agriculture land is considered in the growth, the entire strategic growth of the county. Yeah, because we have a real shortage.
Understood, and we're very
can't hire
supportive.
employees because there's no place to live.
That's correct. Yep. So we're empathetic. We understand that issue, and we're homeowners or trying to be homeowners ourselves. So.
Well, I'm just a little concerned about we have a real strict budget this year. Another $4,000 out of it. Whether we get reimbursed or not, it's a pretty strict budget right now. So I'm a little concerned about that. And then you got plenty of work to do besides going off and doing other things. But those are my concerns. Sounds like it'll go forward anyway.
Mr.
without
McCowan?
LAFCO.
That's correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think it is going forward regardless. I do think it's worthwhile, however, for LAFCO to participate for the reasons stated in the staff report. There's, currently inconsistencies in how prime ag lands are defined. LAFCO has responsibilities regarding ag lands. Hopefully, through this process, some of these issues will be clarified, and it'll actually make our staff's job easier going forward. I think that's what I'm getting out of this. And it's important to note, too, it's a contribution of the executive director's time rather than a cash contribution, so if I understand correctly. So, again, I also do understand the tension between preserving ag land and creating opportunities for housing. And I think part of the intent of this initiative is that the need for housing not override the considerations of protecting ag land. And yet I don't think this going forward absolutely precludes rezoning of land if all the appropriate considerations are met, but it probably sets the bar high, and you want to be very careful about what ag lands might be rezoned and where. May I ask if that's a fairly accurate statement?
Yeah, I'm not sure that, we're not promoting policy in this application. We're collecting data and informing landowners of conservation easement options, the Williamson Act, other existing preservation policies. It's kind of more of an outreach to existing landowners. So we're not.
For the protection of
protection of ag
agricultural
land. If the private landowners want to, we want to inform them of these opportunities. So we're not, we have no intention under this grant to promote a particular property or zoning or policy advocacy, anything like that. We're all executive directors of non-regulatory agencies, so that's kind of outside the scope.
Well, I wasn't, you say promoting a particular zoning or housing or something. I wasn't trying to get at that. But I think you've clarified the intent of this is to make sure that ag land owners understand their options for preservation.
Correct. Yeah,
So if
said
you
very
have
clearly.
development coming your way, going into the Williamson Act, doing a conservation easement, there are ways to protect your land so it remains agriculture in the future.
If they choose to, yeah,
And receive value for doing so.
correct.
Let's go to Mr. Ward, then Mr. Orth.
I just need some clarification. It says in the recommendations, authorized budget up to $4,008 to cover share of match funds. Is it cash? No.
That would be staff time, so it would come out of the budget yes, it would be money out of the LAFCO budget for staff time.
Okay.
A follow-up on that, Madam Chair? Just
That's
on
okay. Go
Jerry's
ahead, I'll
comment.
follow up.
Okay, yes, sir.
Looking at that recommendation, it also says in there 4,080 and 14,280, but if you go to the supporting document, it says only 10,000. So we need some clarification on the numbers there.
So LAFCO was not included in the pre-proposal, so all those numbers are subject to whatever we negotiate works best for you. So if you can only do $2,000 of match, and that'll affect the amount of money we can compensate, but that's all open to proposal. The original numbers were from a draft that I had LAFCO included, so we made a similar to what the other organizations are doing. But LAFCO was taken out for the pre-proposal until we had an opportunity to present to you, and all those numbers are open for discussion. And you could choose not to participate, but as a stakeholder partner. So In the proposal, we say we will reach out and let you know what we're doing. So I'm not doing a hard push, you gotta participate. I'm offering, if you would like to be part of this, you are welcome to. We will try to bring funding to you. But this is gonna go forward regardless. We'd love to have LAFCO as a partner. But if you guys are concerned about the budget or UMA's time, that's fine too. Maybe we could just do, define how much time and energy we can burden her. So just to be clear.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Okay,
Ward?
I'll start by disclosing that I have applied to be a associate director of the Conservation District. So I'll start by saying that. I'll point out this map that was part of the packet, which generally shows just how much of Mendocino County is in timber production versus agricultural potential. And it's really is a diminishing resource that we need to protect. Having spent 25 years on the Willits Bypass Project development team, I can tell you that I represented LAFCO issues during the design process of the bypass, in particular to ensure that the alignment that was chosen would encompass the city of Willits along its growth border, shall we say, that the bypass itself would help create such a border between residential, commercial development and the city of Willits. Of course, in our valley, the west side is the particular where most people would prefer to live, in the Redwood section, the cooler side of the valley. But
May I interrupt you just one
yes.
moment? The map that's being referred to is on page 178 of 214. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I do think it's the LAFCO role to develop our policies, and this process that they're going through in this study, I think, is going to illuminate our future policy discussions and help commissioners make decisions in the future. So I do support going forward with this. After making that disclosure that I'm also going to be working with the Conservation District on these issues in the future, I hope.
Commissioner Rosenberg?
I would agree. It seems to me that the directive for LAFCO is to protect agricultural land, and that it would be essential for our staff person to be involved in whatever developments are happening and know about them in advance, so that we can make, as commissioners, we can make sensible decisions in the future. So it seems to me, even though there is a cost involved of her time, that this is something that our executive director should do.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I agree with what Commissioner Rosen has said, and I think it's part of our mission, and I think that UMA knows what her time constraints are and she knows what homework she's got to do, and I think she'll use her time accordingly. And while I agree with Commissioner Ward that we are all out there looking for places to build housing, and there's a pressure on local government to continue that, but in the Willits area, I agree with what Commissioner Ward said. You could look at that valley area, and I would hate for one day for there to be development on the other side of the freeway and see Kentucky Fried Chickens and that kind of stuff on that side. I think that the people up there have spoken and they know what they want, and having groups like this kind of out there encouraging folks not to sell out to that is important. So again, I'm pro-development, but at the same time, I think, like Commissioner Rosen said, our mission in LAFCO is to also keep an eye out for our agricultural lands.
I don't think it has to be either or. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Ward?
Well, I would just like to reiterate that that is our policy, is to protect and maximize open space and urban development. We're going to be looking at that every time we look at annexations or MSRs. It is our duty regardless if this program goes forward or not. So I don't see the wisdom in joining in, because I don't feel our executive officer has the time to do it.
Commissioner Huff?
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Ward, but I'm also looking at the Resource Conservation District. Looks like they're going to be gathering data. It would be nice to know if somebody comes to us with a proposal that is going to affect prime agricultural land versus some, less prime area. And if we're there when this data is collected, our executive director is going to have a better handle on it. She's going to know it exists. We're going to have a say in it. Maybe not the numbers, but how it's interpreted. That's what we're here for, is to balance the development and the agriculture. And unfortunately, we've seen what that not having that balance has happened all over the state.
Yeah, we only think back to areas like Santa Clara County, where agriculture and orchards were the main industry, and now you see none. Okay, any other questions?
Can I make one more comment?
Yes.
So part of the budget also includes GIS mapping, database, and web expertise to develop some of these databases that were started in the 2017 report. And I know UMA's reached out to me to gather some data, which I don't have access to. We need GIS funding, expertise funding to someone to go in and clean up the database and make it readily available for organizations like yourself. So that's included as a separate line item in the budget request to make sure this data is available to organizations like yourself.
Or actually any governing body, decision-making body.
That's right.
That approves land use projects. Yes. Sir?
So the 168 hours, I'm assuming, is on an annual basis that we're approving. Assuming UMA only works 40 hours a week, which I'm sure you're working more, we're authorizing over 4 weeks of
It's over
effort.
2 years.
Okay, that's still 4 weeks of effort over 2 years dedicated just to this one project. I just want to make sure we're clear about that. Thank you.
Do you have any response to any of the commissioners' statements or questions?
Well, the way that the recommendations are put forward is that it would be approximately $4,000 in staff time to be paid through the LAFCO budget, and then additional, you're correct, Commissioner Ignacio, there's a error there. It should be about $10,000 in grant funding, as was originally proposed in the pre-proposal, and could be up for discussion. So over 2 years, I could make the time to do that. So it would be the $4,000 worth of time, so approximately 40 hours of time through the LAFCO, and then the additional time to be reimbursed through the grant, and I could make that time available.
Can we confirm that it's 4 weeks that we're talking about over the next 2 years of dedicated time to this one project?
It can be
Is
whatever
the
you guys decide.
168 hours accurate?
It's whatever you decide. It's open right now. That was
So
the
you
pre-proposal.
provided 168 hours. I'm asking, is that what you intended to put on the paper?
So the proposal had,
I'm looking at page 158 of 214.
is it the budget spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Is it
so
this
that, he's
table?
referring to the staff report, and I took that from the table in the
Okay, so this is
pre-proposal.
the final pre-proposal that we submitted, and everybody was putting, I don't know your rate, but we were putting in $85 an hour for 120 hours, which is $14,280. So 120 hours over 2 years was our vision. It can be less if you determine so, but that was consistent with the other organizations.
Our
like
rate
the
is
land.
$100 an hour.
You're $100 an hour? Okay, that's fine.
So
We'll put
I
that
guess
in.
I should have directed the question to Uma. You have in your report that you provided us the committee estimated staff time totaling 168 hours.
Correct, and that was from, I believe it was from the previous draft of the
Correct.
pre-proposal, and I didn't have the final in front of me when I drafted the staff report. So again, that is up for discussion and direction.
Okay, and I'd just like to remind the council, this is more than 4 weeks at 40 hours a week over the next 2 years on this one project. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Well, I think we're in the process of clarifying, so I'm not clear right now. Is it 120 hours or is it 168 hours?
It's whatever you decide. So if you decide she's only got 40 hours over the next 2 years, we'll put in that. So the pre-proposal went with 0 LAFCO hours.
Understood.
We're going to get feedback tomorrow about our proposal, and if LAFCO would like to participate, you're welcome to participate at whatever level you determine appropriate.
And I noticed that the 3 land trusts mentioned are all participating at a certain level. I do think it'd be appropriate for LAFCO to participate at that same level. Now, I'm not sure how the hours compute, so, you know, I think we need to figure that part out. But also, we are talking about how much time our executive director should devote to this process. So I do think it would be appropriate to ask the executive director, does she feel she has the time to commit to this? And I kind of think she's going to say yes. And I also, we might ask her opinion on the value that this adds, and or does she see the value to LAFCO, to the work that she does in participating? And again, I kind of think the answer is yes, but we probably should hear directly from our executive director.
Okay, and Commissioner, I'm going to allow a response, and then we'll go to you.
Thank you.
Well, my initial read through the documentation is that there is a lot of similarities between the goals of and the requirements of LAFCO and what we're supposed to review and implementation of our agricultural lands and open space lands policies, and the work that the Sustainable Ag Lands Committee is proposing in their proposal and the strategies that were identified. As Megan mentioned, I have reached out to her a number of times, trying to work through applications and pre-proposals or pre-applications regarding annexation of lands that have been identified as agricultural at one time, and how that how LAFCO's policies and the regulations of the Cortese Knox Hertzberg and the definitions contained in those documents, how those translate into the agricultural lands that are on the ground, particularly in the Ukiah Valley area. So my hope is that there would be clarity in, and also a voice, LAFCO's voice in at the table when the data is being developed and collected, so that there can be, it can kind of streamline that process for us in the future as we review the applications and spheres for the areas, particularly around the cities and the municipal service reviews.
Commissioner?
I think what my mind is going back to is our budget discussion. And many of us felt that the budget we originally came up with was about $5,000 short of what UMA's time should be. And it seems to me that this is something that is essential for our LAFCO to be participating in. And if that costs us close to that amount of money that we did not put in the budget originally, we should definitely change the budget and to make sure that that happens. I realize that our budget is tight, and we try to keep our participating agencies where they're participating to be as low as possible. But we still have work to do, and we still have things to pay attention to. And I think it behooves UMA in her position to be involved in this. Sorry, my voice is giving out, but I think you can understand my feeling towards this.
And I have Treasurer Ward. I know he was looking through our budget and our financials, and so I know he has a comment.
Yes, I do, thank you. For our last fiscal year, she exceeded her budget by $1,450. So, which we paid her, but her basic services exceeded, so here we are adding to it again, so that's my concerns. I'm going to be voting no on this, but I still think that it'll go forward, and I think it'll still be a benefit for us, but I just don't think it's something we need to look at today. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Orth?
I would just note that our budget discussion included talking about coming up with a modest increase in the next budget year to cover these type of expenses. So that it's a 2-year project, so I don't think really we're going to be required to do much changes in our current budget, but next year we could make the adjustment to cover any program costs that we're actually finding ourselves encumbered by.
Okay. Commissioner, Uma?
I just would like to note that the overage was due to unfunded mandates that were required during the last fiscal year, and that's not to say that we won't be getting more this year.
We'll be getting more.
So I just
Count on it.
wanted to point that out.
You're a glass is half empty kind of guy, aren't you?
He keeps us straight. Commissioner?
Thank you,
McCowan.
Madam Chair. So while we're continuing here, I would request that our executive director, I don't know if it's possible to do this on the fly, but I still would appreciate some clarification as to the number of hours to hit the $4,080 match, or whatever that number is going to be for entities participating at that level. Or do we need to do we even need to know specifically the number of hours we're authorizing? I think it'd be prudent to know that, but because I'd like us to be able to move forward today if we could.
Could I suggest a brief recess while Megan and I could speak for just a moment about this, and then we could come back and discuss the numbers, if you wanted to move forward on that today.
And perhaps we could take additional public comment and conclude that, and then take a break and.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
If
sir.
we could, in that consideration, if we can know how many hours you've already spent working with the commission up to this point, because it was stated that you've already provided some input and participation with this committee. I would like to know that as well.
Actually, I think it was the RCD that she commented on.
But we can
She said
include that.
Okay.
UMA has been participating to this point, so I'd just like clarification. Were you present in this committee, or you?
I have not been participating, and I would say that the time that I've spent to date has mostly been in this staff report.
Okay.
I have not been, they loop me in on the meeting, and I do briefly look at the agendas, but I have not been attending due to staff time constraints.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to further public comment, and then we will take a break, and we will come back and listen to the report back, and then make some conclusions. Okay?
Thank you.
So further public comment, anyone that would like to comment, please come forward. State your name for the record, sir.
Good morning. My name is Alan Nicholson. I'm on the board of directors of the Inland Mendocino County Land Trust, and I'm a participating member of the Resource Conservation District Sustainable Ag Lands Committee. I think that this is an extremely important grant, and the inspiration for it was the original SALC study funded by, partially funded by carbon sequestration funds from the state. The study done by CALAFCO in 2016, 2017, that really is the inspiration for responsible preservation and responsible preservation of ag lands and responsible growth plans. And this grant, when it became available, was so aligned with LAFCO's mission the work that is done all over the state, that collecting more data on a local basis seems, at the very least, responsible and crucial for planning and policy making all throughout the county. So I hope you'll all support this. It supports your mission and your goals. It's not advocating no growth or growth. It's completely impartial and is merely collecting data, and I think it's behooves all of us who are concerned with the management and growth of Mendocino County to take advantage of this grant. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we are going to take a break, and we'll reconvene at 10:25. Will 10 minutes be enough? Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I just wondered if we've clarified the hours and how that works.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and I want to thank Megan for helping me get clear on the match part of it. That match funding can actually be covered under our current budget, as long as we document accurately that we are, in our work that we're already doing, we are addressing the issues and objectives of the proposals. So for example, we can, as we update a sphere of influence, which we will be doing for the sanitation district this year, we can document that time because in the sphere update review, we will be looking at the agricultural lands and open space lands around the district in establishing that sphere update. So that time could be used as match funding. The other thing we could use as match funding is when we process any applications where we have to look at agricultural and open space lands. That also can be documented as match funding towards our share for the project. So in that case, then the discussion then would be more towards that would remove item B from the recommendations, so there would be no change to the budget. It would remain the same. And then item C, the current C would be to authorize executive officer to expend time consisting of $4,000 of existing covered activities as match funding, and 120 hours in grant funding reimbursements to participate in and support the project. So that would average out to approximately 5 hours per month in attending the meetings, the monthly meetings, and also to review drafts so that we make sure that they complement LAFCO's directives and regulations and our policies regarding agricultural and open space. Yeah, that would be the summary.
Commissioner McCowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I understand, then our match would be covered by you performing duties that you already perform or would be expected to perform in the normal course of events.
Correct.
In addition, we would be reimbursed for $14,280 of your time.
Well, if it was 120 hours, it would be $12,000 so that would be, so then how that would work, I believe, is that as I expended time towards the proposal, I would bill my time to the grant. It would be reimbursed through the grant, so it would be kind of a pass-through LAFCO for my staff time participation in this.
So then would the numbers be 4,000 and 12,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Ward?
I believe we've gone through all our MSRs and SOIs for pretty much all the districts in the city.
Well,
Pretty much.
as a
Anyway.
first round?
Yeah, and most of them are coterminous, most of them have been.
Yes.
Where would the open land thing come about if you run across them? We haven't run across anything like that.
Well, we still need to
I mean,
review.
Brooktrails has a lot of open space, and it wasn't discussed today.
We still analyze around the district boundaries and look at the open space areas and the agricultural lands. And I anticipate at least 2 applications coming forward this next year for potential annexations into the special districts within the city, within the Ukiah Valley, I'm sorry, that we'll have to look at the agricultural lands, and that actually is why I reached out to Megan initially.
And you have to do that for CEQA
Yes.
determinations.
Correct. And a difficulty with LAFCO and CEQA is that CEQA requires analysis of prime agricultural lands that are based on a definition under Department of Conservation, which is different than the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act definitions. And that is partly why that white paper was written by CALAFCO and the Farmland Trust, State Farmland Trust. And So that's where coordination with this group would benefit us greatly. As Megan mentioned, the GIS data and the layers, that would really streamline our review of applications and regarding ag lands.
But would it still streamline our work without us participating?
It would, because as Megan said, they're going to be moving forward with the project regardless. But where LAFCO's involvement would be beneficial is that we would have an opportunity to review the data and the drafts that are put forward, and comment on those to make sure that they complement and are consistent with our policies and the Cortese-Knotts-Herzberg Act regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Orth?
I would just point out that I believe this would be the first grant that LAFCO will be involved in since I've been on LAFCO. And I think it matches our goals and objectives and our policy needs more than adequately. I also believe that part of our role is coordination. And that's part of what we're supposed to be doing here is coordinating. Good policy that leads to development that makes sense for the county of Mendocino, and I think this does also help us accomplish that. So,
This is a new for LAFCO, as Commissioner Orr stated, and that I think it was just last year that the bill was amended to include LAFCOs as a eligible participant in the grant activities. And I believe that Santa Clara LAFCO is also participating in a similar effort, as well as I believe YOLO LAFCO is as well.
Commissioner?
thank you, Madam Chair. One more clarification. So the $12,000 in grant funding reimbursement, that would cover your time for attending the meetings, and then is it possible that after you've met the 40 hours from existing duties, that if you have additional normal LAFCO duties that are in line with the committee work, are those eligible to be part of the 120 hours for which you could be reimbursed?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
And we're getting affirmative from the RCD. So I might almost be ready to make a motion if you're ready to hear one.
I'm
Or
looking
when.
at other commissioners. I do not see any questions or statements, so go forward, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that we approve LAFCO participation in the Sustainable Ag Lands Committee Program Grant Proposal and Project as a partner, and authorize the executive officer to expend staff time consisting of up to 160 hours, with 40 hours from existing duties as a match, and 120 hours as reimbursable. How would you say that, Uma? And 120 and up to 120 hours to be reimbursed from the grant.
Yes.
To participate in the committee and perform other associated duties.
We may have to go back over that.
So since that's a conjunction that you said and, are you saying that it's now 280 hours?
No.
All right, so.
No, it's
not
160 hours with 40 hours from existing duties as a match for the grant, and 120 hours to be reimbursed from the grant.
So 100, for my clarification, 160 hours with 120 of those hours included to be reimbursed.
Correct.
I understand now.
I'll second that motion.
And maybe that's just how it, as I stated it that last time, maybe that's clear enough.
I got it, thank you.
So 160 hours total with 40 hours from existing duties as a match and 120 hours to be reimbursed from the grant.
Okay, and I'm going to give Uma just a moment here, and then we are going to repeat the motion.
Okay. So authorize the executive officer to expend 160 hours with 40 hours from existing duties as match for the grant and 120 hours to be reimbursed from the grant.
Correct. And along with existing A.
Oh, yes, Andy. Okay.
Okay. So we have agreement from the maker of the motion and the second. Any other commission comment?
I guess I do have a clarification. When would you get reimbursed?
Well, grants have different timelines for reimbursement. I would be willing to hold my time until we were able to get reimbursement, so that there would be no delay in the reimbursement to LAFCO.
I'd have to look into that.
Please come forward. We're being televised, so we have to speak in the mic. State
Yes,
your name
ma'am.
for the record.
We have a meeting tomorrow with the organization to give us feedback on our pre-proposal, and I can certainly ask that about the timing. It's usually
Was gonna
quarterly
suggest
reimbursements, so it takes a few months to go through. That's
So
the
you're-
usual standard.
Your conference call tomorrow is like noon to 1? or-
Correct, and it's in Mr. Donnelly's office here in the
Correct.
building.
We'll get more clarification that, and this was the pre-application process. And the final application would not be due till mid-September, 12th or 15th, I can't remember.
And it's the intent of this motion to be spread out over 2 years?
Yes.
The life of the grant, correct?
Yes. All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
No.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Huff?
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio?
No?
Forget
And
Brown.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much, Megan, for being here, and Alan, and discussing this with us, and looks like we're going forward. Okay. Moving on with our agenda, we go to item 7B, consultation, consultant selection, certified public accounting firm to conduct fiscal year 2018-19 audit, and I'm not sure if Ms. Hinman or our Treasurer Ward, who is going to begin.
I'll leave it to Uma to start.
Okay, thank you. So this is the next step in our request for proposals that we flew earlier this year. We received 2 applications. They're both in your agenda packet. We received one from Paling and Paling CPAs, who has been our existing CPA for the last few years. And then we also received one from JJA CPA, which is out of Fort Bragg. The Paling and Paling estimate was $3,250 per year with potential for annual increases if selected to move forward for additional 4 years of 4% per year. And the JJA CPA proposal was for $3,000 annually. And both the treasurer and myself did review the proposals and are recommending continuing with Paling and Paling as we have a current longstanding relationship with him and have worked well with him in the past.
That was my recommendation. I believe that for the $250, again, concerned about our executive officer's time, not educating a new CPA for the audit process. Thought it'd go much smoother and quickly with Paling and Paling, and for the last several years, we've had good results from them. So I'm recommending continuation of Paling and Paling.
Commissioners, comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would support this proposal for the reasons stated, but it is a best practice to not stay continuously with the same auditor. So maybe we approve this, again, with the potential for extensions as stated, but we would be, going out more formally at the end of that period.
I thought it was interesting, the other proposer made a good comment that they have long-term relationships with the people they audit for 5 to 10 years. I thought that, that was something that they probably were looking forward to, is having long-term relationships. But I can't disagree with your reasoning. I think it is important to do that. But we're finding out that there isn't a lot of activity out there for wanting to do these small audits. So that's the other problem. It does take time to go out through an RFP process, and it'd be different if we were getting several responses, but we're not. So that's my only concern.
Mr. Worth?
I support the recommendation. LAFCO isn't a complex organization as is enterprise districts and cities, and whether we actually need, the smaller districts are having problems getting auditors. Okay, we're lucky that we have an on-board auditor that has been working with us, and we have a smooth process. In Brooktrails, we did go out for bid. We changed auditors. We're now back with the auditor that we had prior to that one. So we did our due diligence in changing an auditor because of philosophy. But when you have a good working relationship, I think it does make the whole process go much more smoothly. And because we're just an annual budget approval organization, I don't think we're the complexity that needs to, look for a highfalutin auditor that's going to explain to the public exactly what we're doing. I think we do that adequately with the auditor we have now.
Thank you. Sir?
I've been on a couple boards where Pelling has been, and I think for the reason stated, that they do small organizations, and that must be the niche he's carved out. But I do agree that we needed to go out and at least look, see what's out there.
Yes, and I know the cemetery districts, the fire departments, you start naming all the special districts have a very, very difficult time. And I've recommended to the cemeteries that they consolidate as cemeteries to be able to find an auditor that can come do it, their audits. And this has been a challenge with our MSRs to get these audits through the years.
So John, what do you recommend for going out to bid again? 2 years?
I think that could be decided on an annual basis. I'm not objecting to
Well, we've got to.
staying with the current firm through the, the allotted potential extensions.
Okay. So you want to look at it every year, but not necessarily go out to an RFP every year?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay.
Dave? So,
Make a motion.
yes, sir.
I move that we select Paling CPA to perform the financial audits for the fiscal year of 2018. And then I also moved that we authorize the chair to execute the agreement.
I second.
Okay. Clarification.
Sure.
We do have in the recommended motion with the option to extend up to 4 additional years. Do you
I'll
want to
amend
make
it.
that
I'll
two,
amend
or
to include.
include it in the
Yes.
motion?
Second.
I just didn't see recommendation 3 necessary in the motion.
Okay. And Mr. Huff,
I'll
you
second
agree?
the amendment.
Okay.
John, I think already did.
Pardon?
I think McCowan already did.
No,
He's taken
Okay.
care of. He was going to second the motion. Once again, your chair messed everybody up.
Chairman's doing a great job.
Okay, maybe we have a roll call. Oh, public comment. Seeing no one for public comment, can we have a roll call vote?
Beth mixes it up, so I'm going to start over here. Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty. We're going to move on on our agenda to 8, information and report items. 8A, work plan, current and future proposals. That can be found on page 208 of the 214 pages.
Thank you.
Go forward.
Thank you. We have no changes to note on the applications. I will say that we have been working on the waiver application for detachment from the Mendocino Coast Healthcare District. We've been working with the county auditor's office and the assessor's office regarding verifying the petition signatures and that process. We did distribute the application referral to the affected and interested agencies and have been, we received very little feedback, so we've using that additional outreach time to see if we can really solicit some comments from some of the agencies that we need to. I've also set up a meeting with the county CEO's office and the county council regarding a number of things, but during that time, we'll be discussing the EOA process that is underway and how that might affect this detachment, or if it's an issue to think of, to discover. No change to the applications on hold, and no change to the future proposals. The work plan portion has been updated for this fiscal year's efforts, so that will be finishing up the Brooktrails Township CSD, which we will do this week. Mendocino City Community Services District, the County Service Area 3, and the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District. The meeting I mentioned with the CEO's office will be discussing the CSA 3 and getting that MSR SOI started. And then we have started the request for information for the Mendocino City CSD as well, and we'll be reaching out to them. The next effort will be to start the sanitation district outreach and request for information. That's all I have.
Mr. Ward?
Do you have any idea whether you'll be hitting it this fiscal year, the 2 applications on hold, or the 2 future proposals? It seems like they just keep going on and on and on, but
They do, and I had asked the city of Ukiah, I think it was last year, whether they wanted to continue to keep that on hold, and they did at this time. I think they are hoping to roll that into their sphere update, but I'm not sure. The Moores annexation to Irish Beach, that is, I've had continued phone calls from Mr. Moores and have just repeatedly let him know that until we receive reimbursement for the outstanding balance and a deposit to time for staff to work against, that we cannot move forward with the application. I have reached out to, I have been coordinating with the county planning department because the first step in that process is really a discussion to find out what exactly is being proposed now that the amendment to the local coastal plan and the rezone was denied. So I'm not putting any time into that application, but I believe he does want to move forward, is what he says.
the Anderson Valley CSD too, they've been at it for what, 2.5 years now? Are they making any progress?
They are still in the CEQA process, from what I understand, and that has not been finished yet.
Yeah, I'm just concerned if these hit this year with your existing work plan that, and now with the other thing we just approved, you know, your time is valuable.
We are looking at possibly getting some help for a special study on portions of the MSRs to help to ease staff time and help us with that
Okay.
that workload.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Moving on. Correspondence.
We have no correspondence that hasn't been brought forward already.
All righty, then we have a verbal executive officers report.
Thank you. I did want to mention that there was an error on the bills that went out for the apportionment fees from the auditor's office this year. They referenced last fiscal year instead of this fiscal year. So we received a lot of calls and emails about that, and the auditor's office has reissued those invoices to the ones that hadn't paid. I wanted to give a clerk update. We still haven't found anyone, but I did receive a number of resumes, and I will be looking at those this week and hoping to set up some phone interviews and then some interviews to fill that role. I received some contact from the state controller's office and have been working with them to contact some of the cemetery districts that they have not been able to get in touch with. And I guess they are planning some field visits, site visits to those ones that they aren't able to work with or get in touch with.
And you stated that this is the controller's office, and these are cemetery districts.
State controller's office for some a cemetery district, Anderson Valley Cemetery District. They hadn't been able to get in touch with someone. I was able to provide contact information and then follow it up myself with that district. And I believe they are in touch now. So, there was a CALAFCO university course called Deep Dive into Municipal Service Reviews. One size does not fit all. I did send Larkin, our analyst, to that, and she'll be able to give us a report on that, on kind of her findings on what she was able to gain from that class. I believe that's all I have. I just wanted to point out that our next meeting will be September 9th instead of the first Monday of the month, and that's due to the Labor Day weekend.
Thank you. Committee reports. I don't think we had any committee meetings.
Nope.
So we're moving forward. Commissioner reports, comments, questions?
Didn't the executive committee meet after the last June meeting?
In June?
That was our last meeting, yes.
It was about the clerk position, too.
Yes, and we did discuss that. Thank you for, it's been 2 months ago.
Yeah, because we didn't meet in July.
And so I had totally spaced that, but it was to discuss the clerk's position and hours of operation, and how we would move forward until we were able to replace the individual. And I believe UMA sent everyone out an email on the commission as well, stating what procedures were going to be taken, not those appointments, only meetings by appointment, and that she was available, would be checking phone messages, emails, and be available to the commission in order to respond to any concerns that may be raised. So we just set that forward, and that's where we are today.
I noticed on your claims report, you're handling the clerk position, but at a much lower hourly rate.
Until we fill
You
that.
okay with that?
Until we fill that position, Larkin and I are covering the clerk's role, and we are billing that time at the clerk rate.
And how many hours has it been so far?
I think it was only about 20 hours. Without having the office hour time, there's not a lot of time that goes into that. I have been in the office about 1 day a week is how it's worked out.
But it is fair to say that the problems with Pacific Internet did add to your time.
Yes, it did.
Yes, implemented.
which the clerk would, probably handle that.
Portion of it.
Yes. Okay. Moving forward. Commissioner reports, comments, questions?
I would
Mr.
like,
Wood?
I reported back in June, which is our last meeting prior to this one, that Savings Bank was charging us $5 a month.
Yes.
And I believe it's
And there was
because of a
something else,
paper,
too.
it's a paper statement. If we go online and get them each month, there'd be no charge. Now, it's only $60 a year savings, but I do get the reports online every month anyway. I don't know how you feel about that, if I could just pull them off the online and send them to you. Yeah. But I did open up a Gmail account, so I have a backup.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking for.
The other one was $144 that was still outstanding for one of the districts that hadn't paid their apportionment fees. I did discuss that with Shamice, and they did pay it.
Okay.
And I wanted to report that we skated by with our budget. We end up, I think, a couple $100 more without going into our reserve account end of June. So we came out all right. We did get a large deposit from one of the applicants, but we did make it through without hitting our deal. I was in the auditor's office last week, and we will be getting a $45,000 check this Thursday to cover the future costs. And I'll get an update as, I think they've only collected $53,000 so far. But I didn't realize that they misappropriated the amounts to all the districts, so hopefully it doesn't, and you might have the county, instead of paying like in November, maybe you guys could pay a little more. The other thing is, I was going through our contract file.
Are you looking at me as chair
No.
of that board?
No, we have plenty of money for the next few months. I was looking at our contract file, because every year, it's some of these contracts do come due, but our rent for the conference center, I think we still have another 8, 9 months, 10 months. But I was looking at your contract, and I don't really have a copy of the original. I have a lot of the underlines, so I was wondering if I could get a copy of that. And I also noticed that your certificate of insurance expired in May this
Okay.
year, so we'll need an updated certificate.
And that's what's required of all contractors.
Right, and that's all I had, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that is it. And now 8F, CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report. The legislative report is found on page 210 of 214 pages. Looks like they're getting ready, prepping for their annual meeting with nomination periods. Would you like to give us comment, please?
I just wanted to note that the nomination period for the CALAFCO Board of Directors is due at the end of September, so we have one more meeting that we could, if someone wanted to be put forward for that, we could do that. And then the nomination period for the Annual Achievement Awards is due September 20th. I did send that packet by email, so if you need it again, I can send it, or if you're not interested, that's fine too. And then also wanted to note that the annual CALAFCO conference is October 30th to November 1st, 2019, this year in Sacramento. We have enough budget for 4.8 commissioners to attend the conference as far as registration fees go, and I'm not anticipating that the travel costs will be as expensive as last year because it is Sacramento, and the hotel rate is much lower.
And it's at the Hyatt,
It is-
correct?
Yes, I believe that's right.
Yes.
You need an answer today?
The sooner I can get them, the better, because hotel rooms go so fast, and if you want to be at the hotel where the conference is, we need to make reservations right away.
I have a question
makes-
after Mr.
Mr. Orth?
Yes, I'll submit my name this year. I like the local
conferences. Sacramento is local.
It's local.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
the 4.8, was that based on last year's numbers, or is that based on the lower cost in this year's numbers?
So we never know exactly what the registration rate is going to be. It's right around the 525, and so that's just, we budgeted similar to last year, so
Okay.
that, yeah.
So that's just for the registration?
That's just for the registration portion, yes.
Okay.
I strongly recommend anyone who is new to this board attend a CALAFCO, because I think in the first years that you serve on the LAFCO board, attending the annual meeting is really, really important to understand the scope of LAFCOs and the relationship to other things in the state. So it seems to me that going the first 2 years I was on the board was incredibly important.
And I'm actually considering it, since it is local. Just to be updated, I haven't attended for quite some time. I think I went to Riverside County, Ontario, because no one else was going to go and wanted to carry everyone's vote. And in a way, that's like Sacramento. There's, it's very downtown capital oriented. But I want to look at the agenda, and it's online.
It is. Yes.
Tentative agenda, I am assuming. But I am considering.
Okay.
I would consider going only if there was availability, if newer commissioners were not able to attend.
So I think Uma's
Okay.
going, okay, gotta make up your mind.
I can reach out to Commissioners Lee and, just blanked on his name, I'm so sorry. Williams? Williams.
Yeah, Ted Williams.
Yes, I can reach out to them as well to see if they would like to attend.
We have two in the room, too. That
Jennifer,
could speak up.
I went last year.
did you
Oh,
go
that's
last
right.
year?
We did
You
go
did?
together,
I was
yeah.
in Yosemite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Want to go this year?
Not necessarily.
We have one over here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Rosenberg. I will take that to heart, but the day before Uma sent out the packet, I committed to,
Halloween.
actually, yes, one of the paramedics asked me to work Halloween so he can take his two daughters trick-or-treating because he normally works those days.
Aw.
And I really don't want to disappoint them. But
Not kids.
next year, definitely. Is it always around that same time?
Yeah.
It's around the same time. They do
Okay.
shift usually between Northern and Southern California, so it'll probably be down in Southern California next year.
I'll fall on the sword and do the Southern California one.
Are we supposed to dress for Halloween? I didn't even think about that.
There was something about that.
Probably for the wine tasting, we'll have a certain amount of folks with costume.
That's true.
And if.
The wine and beer competition.
Right. Last time when we were there and one of our commissioners won the prize for her wines. And there also is a cheaper motel, which is quite comfortable, not too far away.
They did move things around a little bit this year, probably for the Halloween. The awards dinner is going to be on Wednesday night instead of Thursday night. And then Thursday night, there's a special mixer with costumes, yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
You should
Well-
definitely go and dress up.
Actually, the last time I was in Sacramento for a conference, it was Wear Denim Day for women. So everyone, including all those at the Capitol, including males, everyone was wearing jeans. It was very comfortable.
You can go as a cowgirl then.
Oh, I'd rather go as a witch. I think.
Since it
Oh.
is right across from the Capitol, I would guess that we would have special speakers from the legislature or something.
They usually do when it is in Sacramento. I think that's what Commissioner Rosenberg and I and former commissioners that attended that one year found out. But it also is a hangout. Lobbyists, organizations, I guess I shouldn't called it a hangout, but there's many individuals that are there, and it's surprising who you meet in the lobby.
It's, especially the one in, well, having attended the one in Sacramento, I think it was really, having it in Sacramento really makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having it in one location, which I think CALAFCO can do because it's much smaller than some of the other organizations and that have to move over to the convention center. You move over to the convention center and you're walking miles all the time. Okay, so anyone that's interested, please get that in to Uma. Sir.
I will just say this will be the second one I go to in over 25 years, so it's not something I do frequently, but having been elevated on this commission, I feel I'd better be updated as well.
It'll be beneficial to you.
And in my 11 years, this will be my third time, I think. Okay. I did want to mention on the legislation, going over the different legislative proposals. I did look at AB 1304. And this has to do with current law provides for the establishment and operations of various water districts. This bill would specifically authorize a water district as defined to enter into a contract with a Native American tribe to receive water deliveries from an infrastructure project on tribal lands. And it would be repealed. It has a sunset clause in it. But I'm wondering, because we did have the question mark and didn't go forward with further legal analysis on tribal lands and with water districts, would this go with the Round Valley and the Round Valley Water District? Have you looked into this, or has our legal counsel brought this up?
He hasn't, and I have not looked into it. It looks like it failed earlier in July, mid-July.
Yeah, so it's being made into a 2-year bill, isn't it?
Okay, I haven't looked into it, but I can do a little bit of research on that one. That might help us with that issue that was raised.
I didn't see where it had failed.
The status?
Fourth line. Reads introduction, amendment, status.
Okay, gotcha. It was a failed deadline. I wonder what that means. Just didn't,
Didn't make the deadline, I guess.
but anyway,
I can do a little research on that one for next
Okay.
time.
just didn't see that. I did read status of others and marked it up, but anyway,
Looks like it's postponed till 2020, next January.
okay. Maybe I did see that. Right. Okay, then they did make it into a 2-year bill. All righty. Okay. Any other business? Any other public comment? Seeing none,
Adjourn.
we're adjourned, and everybody know we're coming back on September 9th. Second Monday.
Thank you.